Taking a deep breath in. And as you exhale, just letting your jaw relax, letting the breath out through the mouth. And one more deep breath, just like that. Inhaling through the nose, exhaling through the mouth. Big sigh. Releasing and letting go. And turning your gaze down or simply closing your eyes, letting the eyelids rest. And just start to feel yourself sitting. Noticing the contact that you're making with the support beneath your body. Can you sense the weight of your body letting go as it surrenders to the gravitational pull of the earth? Notice where your feet are. Can you feel the support beneath them? Notice your hands, perhaps resting in your lap, soft fingers, or perhaps you have a mudra that you like to practice, a hand position that has some meaning for you. And noticing the length of your torso, your spine. And sensing the head floating, resting, right centered between the shoulders. And as we sit, sensing the joints stacked on top of each other, sensing the rootedness of the pelvis, sensing the spine, all the vertebrae stacked on top, the stacking of each and every rib that makes up the rib cage, the shoulder joint, and like the top of a sundae, the cherry on top, sensing the head. So that we're sitting upright, sitting with dignity, with wakefulness, and with us inviting a sense of presence with our breath. Watching the rising and the falling of each and every breath. The coming and going of each inhalation and each and every exhalation. Sensing this breathing body. Sensing the aliveness within this breathing body. And let's open our senses, the windows of the body, where we receive the outer world that surrounds us. We can sense sound vibrations in our own surroundings. Sounds in the distance, perhaps beyond the doors and walls and windows of where you're sitting. The movement of a vehicle, sounds of nature, sounds of human activity. And sounds nearby. The ticking of a clock, the movement of air, the movement of any other beings that you are cohabitating with. And we can observe how sound comes and it goes. As all things arrive, they come into fruition. And as the Buddha taught us, everything falls away. Everything is impermanent. And as things fall away, we make way for new things to come. We can open up our senses to receive a sense of smell, smells that may be floating in the airwaves, perhaps the scent of a candle burning, something from the kitchen. And our sense of smell is interwoven, closely connected with our sense of taste. Any lingering taste of dinner on our tongue. And we can notice also how smells and tastes come and go. Everything changes. And opening up to our sense of touch, noticing what we perceive on the skin, the exterior of the body, and what we're able to perceive on the inside of the body. And we can also notice our sense of sight, even with our gaze turned down, our eyes closed. We can still perceive light and shadow. And the Buddha and his teachings included the mind as one of our senses. And so just noticing what we perceive within the mind. We can notice the mind as a climate as well as a weather system, more of a generalized sense of the state of the mind, whether it's foggy, lethargic, or sharp and clear. We can notice if the mind is busy making plans, thinking thoughts, lost in stories, a personal narrative about our lives, about a situation. You can notice if our mind feels spacious or crowded. We can also notice the weather. What are those particular thoughts? We can observe the content of our thoughts from the perspective of presence that's just able to see without becoming involved. And from the content of our thought, there may be emotions that arise, energies in motion. We may experience emotions within the heart as emotions move from the mind into the body, into our heart center. And we may feel the vibration of our emotions as sensations within the body, as temperature changes, as movement, expansion, contraction. We might notice pressure in the body, a light pressure or a heavy pressure. And we might even experience the weight of our emotions within the body, heavy or light. Opening all of our senses. Receptive, like an open window, just letting everything come through each fresh and new moment. And like a breeze that just moves through, and then moves on through perhaps another window. And all the while, as change constantly rises and falls through each of our senses, we can find the anchoring and the consistency, the steadiness of the breath. Like a boat that is tethered with its anchor deep into the bottom of the seafloor. Well, the boat is still moving about and influenced by its surroundings, the wind, the water, the weather, and more. There's a certain steadiness that its anchor keeps it so that it does not get lost at sea, does not capsize, does not lose its direction. And so we'll sit with ourselves, each of us together in Sangha, knowing that we are in community, holding each other, leaning into each other, while at the same time experiencing our own windows and what is passing through, using our breath to anchor us to this moment. Notice if your boat is still tethered to its anchor. If your attention has just drifted off into thoughts, lost in thought, just notice where you've traveled. And we can note where the mind takes us, planning thoughts, crowded thoughts racing, spacing out, perhaps deeply immersed in some content of a particular story. And the practice is to notice where we go and then train the mind to come back home to right here, right now, this moment, within this body that's breathing, within this beating heart. Coming back home to the breath. Noticing once again, are we tethered? Are we following the steadiness of the breath? Are we aware of each arising moment and whatever else comes into our perception, into our field of awareness? And if we find that we've been untethered momentarily, we just simply practice the practice of arriving again and again and again, acknowledging where we've drifted, finding our tether through the breath again, anchored in the body, resting within the heart. What's in our awareness now? And in these last few breaths of sitting together, let us bring awareness to our heart centers, maybe even bringing a hand or maybe both hands, and inquiring what is moving through our heart. The beginning of this new year that's still so fresh, that's just beginning. What is moving through us? Are there things that we may be grasping for, holding tightly to? While there may be other things that we're pushing away, that we're resisting. The Buddha taught us to practice equanimity, to be able to hold ourselves with both our pushing away and our clinging, and to hold ourselves in those two places with tenderness and compassion for the suffering that may arise. And so to invite the heart of compassion to hold us in any tender emotions that may arise, whether it be sadness, whether it be fear, anxiety. Compassion can hold us tenderly with emotions of anger and all the myriad of flavors, from irritation and annoyance, frustration, to rage. Our heart can grow and expand to infinite possibilities to hold all that moves through our heart, to hold guilt and shame, and to also hold the immensity of joy, the immensity of laughter, that expansion that we sometimes feel in the heart of peace, contentment, and gladness. So, in these last few breaths, ride the waves of each and every breath, feeling the heart expand to hold it all that's arising, all that's coming, and all that's going. And let us bring a sense of gratitude, perhaps bringing our hands together, a sense of gratitude for this time that we share with each other, this time of sharing within our hearts, listening deeply, and responding with compassion. And we can acknowledge the ground we sit upon and the many blessings we've been given from those who have cultivated this land, that have slaved on this land, that have poured their tears and blood, shed blood on this land. To all those natives, to all those who have been forced against their will from other parts of the world to come here, let us give thanks and pay tribute. And bringing gratitude to the ancestors whose shoulders we stand upon. Giving thanks to all those beings that make it possible for us to be here. All of the teachers who bring these teachings of insight meditation. Gratitude to all of our supports, our friends, our families, our neighbors, our colleagues, even strangers that we've never met. And a deep bow of gratitude. And taking a deep, full breath in again. Letting the breath go. Arriving here with each other in this moment, in this new year. Finding the rhythm of the breath that tethers us and brings us back home to that safe harbor. And feeling the gentle rhythm and that safe harbor, the movement of water, the gentle rocking of the boat. The steady waves of each and every breath. Welcoming yourself into this new year, 2023. And so our topic this evening is to find our North Star. And what I mean by that, I've been using the metaphor of the boat that can be tethered in a safe harbor, and it can also be moving through the sea and be more vulnerable in the more exposed to the turbulence of the seas and the wind and the weather. And our North Star can be an intention that we set for ourselves for this year. And sometimes we call it a heartfelt aspiration. And the Buddha talked a lot about intentions and aspirations, being in touch with what is arising in our hearts and what do we want. And we might think of like a goal, setting a goal. There's lots of goals that we might want to set for ourselves in the new year that are more about doing something that is healthy for us, that is life enhancing for us, like perhaps eating better or meditating more or exercising more, losing weight, gaining weight. There's the whole bit of each of us individually has a list of those kind of self-care items that help us feel good about ourselves and feel good in our bodies. And while those are goals, it's more like a destination. It's like we're trying to move towards something, and either we get there or we don't. And Tony Robbins, how many of you know Tony Robbins, who he is? Just a show of hands. Yeah, so he's an inspirational, motivational speaker who's been around since, I don't know, maybe the 60s or 70s. He's the originator of the fire walk, which I did once in my earlier days of literally walking on fiery coals. But I'm not going to digress. Tony Robbins has a saying, and I don't remember the exact quote, although I might look it up momentarily. But it isn't about achieving the goal. That's not really, I mean, if we achieve our goal, great. But it's not the real value. The greatest value is the path that we walk upon to move in that direction, and how it changes us, how it stirs within us, and how it makes us grow. And so many wise teachers also talk about a goal versus an aspiration, an intention. An intention is really more about the process. What is the path? And how do we want to feel as we walk on this path? What is the everyday life experience that we want to have as we're walking on the path? Whether it be the path of peace, the path of acceptance, of compassion, of being more present, more authentically showing up with ourselves, more honest with other people. So it's more like a quality that we're cultivating within ourselves. And we also might think about obstacles on the path. And there's a very famous quote that I absolutely love, that obstacles are not put on our path. They are the path. They are the path. And when we look at our lives from our egoic perception that clings to this and pushes away that, is seeking those the smooth path. It's smooth, it's flat, it's easy, maybe a little downhill, maybe just a little uphill. But when the big obstacles show up that are unexpected, that take our breath away with surprise, that make us contract, that pull us away, those are really the obstacles that are the path that are helping us to grow. And without saying it directly, I think Tony Robbins was really, when he quoted this, that it isn't really the goal. It's about how moving towards a goal changes us, that really matters and really speaks to what the Buddha taught us, as well as many other wise teachers who have been informed by spiritual practices. So, what I would like to offer today in finding our North Star, so that when we are lost Some of you talked about like losing touch with yourself, disconnecting, feeling lost, falling off the path, stepping away from your meditation practice. Our North Star can be one of those things that when we are disoriented, when we don't know where we are, where we're going, that we can look to the north, we can orient. And then once we know where north is, then we know where west and east are and south. We can find our way and kind of recalibrate ourselves. So we'll set a New Year's aspiration. Some of you may have already. So you have your pencil and your paper. It's very helpful to kind of look back because the past is a teacher that informs the future. And so I'm just going to offer a couple of questions, and we only have a little bit of time to respond to these questions, but you can leave space to write more after this class is ended. So the first question of reflection is, and you can just close your eyes and just rather than thinking with your mind, let it rise up from within. What are 1, 2, or 3 moments in 2022 that you experienced being on top of a wave? A wave of delight, of joy, of feeling like you are so connected with yourself and the universe and everyone in it. A real sense of yes. Things might come to you right away, an experience you had. It may be an achievement, something you worked hard for, and then you achieved it, and it just felt so, so good. It may be something so simple, like watching a sunrise over the ocean, which I've been doing a lot since the ocean is just less than a block away from me. It can be so simple. It can be hearing the laughter of someone that hasn't laughed in a long time. And so just sitting with that. What are 1, 2, or 3 perhaps peak moments? And then just close your eyes and drop in and feel one of those peak moments in your body as sensation. And breathe with it. Let yourself savor. Memory is a great resource when we can remember the good. And taking a deep breath in. And as you exhale, letting that first question go, and we'll segue to the second one. And the second question is, what are the practices that you experienced in 2022 that truly supported you, that you would like to continue? What are the practices, the self-care practices, whether it be dance or yoga or walking or those regular calls to a family member or a friend, those places you visited? What are those resources that supported you, those practices that supported you that you want to continue? And build a bridge from 2023 into 2023. And then just momentarily let yourself just sit with the memory of one of those practices, one of those resources and feel it as a direct experience in your body. There's a part of our brain that does not know the difference between the actual experience and the memory of it. Our memories can be vivid, opening up all of our senses, feeling it in our body, and feeling the support of whatever practice that may be. And in this way, we're anchoring it in the body to carry with us into this next year. And taking a deep anchoring breath in and out as we segue into our third question. And the third question of reflection is on 2022, what are one, maybe two, maybe three moments of challenge that stirred up the snow globe, that perhaps we got lost in, untethered, and swept away by the storm? And it may be something large, like a great loss that we had, an experience of great loss. And as the Buddha taught us, loss is part of life. Loss is part of love. The more we love, the more it feels painful to lose. And it may be something that was challenging, but also easy, relatively speaking, to move past or through, where we were able to find the ground again beneath us more readily. And just take a moment to feel the sensations of that turbulence, of that momentary upheaval, however it might have been experienced in your body or is experienced now as you remember. Reconnecting. And then part B of this question, notice as you remember how you got through this turbulent, struggling, challenging time. How did you get through it? What supports carried you along the way? And taking a deep breath in and let yourself drop into the present moment with all of this experience of reflection, sensing both the challenge and those peak moments, sensing both the steady practices that have supported you through this past year, as well as the experiences that have carried you through the challenges. And we can bring our hands to the center of our chest and just bow to all the ways that we have changed, the ways that we have grown in this past year, 2022. Bidding farewell. And as we let go, we make space for this new year, 2023. And so our last question is, and while there may be lots that you want to write from the previous questions, and I encourage you to do that at another time, but to begin a little bit of writing about a heartfelt intention for this year. And I just want to share for myself, because I've been setting heartfelt intentions for many, many years, decades. And what I like to do is ask myself, what is that steady anchor that I want to be held by? And what is that North Star that I want to look up to? And so for me, it's kind of a two-part aspiration. And for this year, I've gotten a little bit more specific. And for 2023, and my heartfelt aspiration, and I always give myself permission throughout the year to refine, to revise, to change as needed, so that it's not static and rigid, but it's a growing aspiration that continuously grows with me and changes with me throughout the year. So don't feel like it's like something you're stuck in, and once you decide what it is, that's it. And for me, mine is to become more aware of how my mind judges, to notice the moments of judgment, self-judgment that can be very subtle and very under the radar of awareness, to be more aware of self-judgment, because I know that for myself, whatever self-judgments I have, I project those judgments out to others in the world. And we tend to do that as we are the outer reality is a mirror reflection of our inner reality. So to become more aware of my own of judgments as they arise, and then to seek understanding and to bring compassion to whatever the situation of judgment is. So I know that's a little wordy, and it's kind of three parts. It's being aware of my judgments, seeking to understand, which is the antidote, one of the antidotes to dissolving judgments. We can't always understand. Sometimes we just have to let go and know that there's something we just can't know, we can't ever understand. And then to bring compassion to self, to the situation. So, what is your heartfelt aspiration? And you might want to just sit for a few moments and breathe into the question, to let the question be alive, to feel the vibration of the question as an inquiry that does not have perhaps a definitive, solid answer, but that it's more fluid, like water. And then, as you are ready to take pen in hand to paper and to anchor your intention, and our anchors are never in cement, in solid earth, but in this softer, shifting sand. And so we can feel the fluidity of the anchor that orients us, that grounds us. And then looking up towards our North Star, for me, the second part of my aspiration is to be present to what is here now, to what is arising now, to live in awareness. And so that North Star can orient us. And so for me, it's a question: what is here now? When I'm lost in story, in a narrative of suffering, when the moment I'm aware, I can ask, like the North Star, what is happening now? What is the reality that is happening now? So, what is your heartfelt aspiration, both grounding you and pointing in the direction that orients you to the path you want to walk upon this year, 2023? And while this is maybe a work in progress, mine certainly is, we'll just pause here for a moment and just drop inside and just feel the resonance. Say to yourself your aspiration a few times. Each time you say it, it may be a little bit different. No worries. Each time you say it, it grounds into the bones, anchors into this moment, into this year. And allow an image of the future, an image of maybe the spring season or the summer or the fall, or even the next holiday season. Take a moment to imagine yourself further along the path in 2023, and your heartfelt aspiration is alive has changed you, has supported you, has fostered growth and resiliency. And so, in these last 2 breaths, you might feel the sensation of your intention living within you like a sankalpa in Sanskrit. We experience it as though it's already here. An I am statement. I am, and then fill in the blank. Our heartfelt aspiration is already living through us. And taking a deep breath in and out.